think there's a few things, right? So if I'm on the Brown side, I'm going to want to muck it up all over the field. I'd really like to pressure Princeton in the clear and just force them to be uncomfortable. And I also am going to look at shot selection. I wouldn't want to shoot Ryan Croddick hot. He's shown that he can take over a game.
Dash Sachs, the senior from Westport, Connecticut, wins the opening faceoff, and Brown will go on the settled attack for the first time today. This is a Bears team. They've hit double digits in goals just twice over 10 games. Their season high, 12 in a loss against Yale a couple weeks ago. Had a lead in that game, lost 15-12. They had a first half lead against Cornell at home last weekend, and then the Big Red going on a run to seal that 13-9 victory, but Brown hanging tight against the number one team in the country last weekend. Very young attack unit. Here's Ennis Udo, Philadelphia native from Westchester, just outside Philly, product of Malvern Prep. Mateo Corsi, the Syracuse transfer, getting the start with the top midfield today as they work it behind the cage. Brady O'Kane, the freshman, Haverford School product, coming off a hat trick. There's a dodge and an early goal. Mateo Corsi at the top of the formation, and Brown on top 1-0.
I mean, it's a beautiful individual effort here, but I think this starts. I love the way that they came out of this game. They're super conservative the way they were moving the ball, and it's just a beautiful way to get someone up top and dodge one-on-one, and he just makes a nice play at the end there, I think, to split the double.
Mateo Corsi running with the top midfield, first start of the season. He started his career at Syracuse, was all Ivy as a sophomore his first season in Providence. That's his fourth goal of the season, and it's 1-0 Bears.
And I just love the way Corsi really attacked there. I think once you get someone sliding to you, they're sort of off balance a bit, and he gave him a nice shake to the top side and split it.
McMeekin keeps it alive long enough for Quinn Kramer, the defensive midfielder, coming off the wing to scoop the ground ball for Princeton. And now we'll get a look at this balanced Princeton offense. 6 returning starters, and they've been able to mix in some younger guys. Peter Bonanno, the freshman, number 12, had a 4-point game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and if I'm Princeton, I think I want to make this into as much of a half-field game as possible. Their offense and their defense are pretty darn good, and I want to try to own the middle of the field.
Tucker Wade doing just that to tie it at 1. The sophomore with goal number 13 on the season. Such a talented sophomore class. It was the nation's #1 recruiting class, and on offense you've got Burns and Kabiri on attack, and Tucker Wade as good as it gets in the midfield.
He really impresses me. I've watched him this season and obviously last, but he's so shifty. He's so hard to guard, and when you're a short stick, it's not easy to guard that back and forth, and I just love seeing him be aggressive early on in the game.
Was matched up against the short stick, one of the best in the Ivy League in the junior Samari Staten, and Wade's able to put it on the left side and score to tie it up. Princeton, you notice on the offense, just about everybody's two-handed, and it's really hard to scout sets. You've almost got to scout tendencies if you're the defense.
Yeah, and I think Coach Mitchell does a really good job of ensuring that guys are moving the ball. I think that's like a core principle of what Princeton does on the offensive end. They're dangerous from every single spot on the field. I think that they do extremely well when the ball is moving. A lot of people are getting touches, and they can flow in and out of sets.
McMeekin trying to beat Sachs off to the sideline. Princeton's got the 6-on-5 off the face-off win. Bonanno, left-handed dodge, fires high.
He's been fun to watch the past couple of weeks. I would have loved to see him, I think, drag further to the backside to allow that sub coming in from the box to just have the odd man situation.
That's one area we haven't really seen, right? McMeekin's such a weapon offensively, had 8 goals last year, hasn't factored in a lot, but not necessarily a bad guy to have left out on the field.
Yeah, he seems to be finding his rhythm the past couple of weeks.
1-1, teams exchanging goals. First Corsi for the Bears and then Wade for the Tigers.
Foley almost got him.
Princeton fell in Providence last year, an upset. Princeton ranked 13th at the time. Brown coming in well below 500. New coaching staff, but a lot of the same personnel back as it's Mackesy drawing the slide, and we were wondering what the matchup would be. Was Witt on Mackesy and then Cave able to slide over? Shot comes in, Kabiri there for the backup. Princeton arguing that should be a reset on the shot clock. They won't get it. Palumbo has the angle cut down, fires it, got to the goalie. They're going to blow the whistle and say a shot clock violation. Matt Madelon livid on the sideline.
I thought he hit Foley.
I think they wanted the reset on the initial shot with 7 seconds, and then it looked like Palumbo coming around got the goalie.
I think he did, and I was about to give him praise for such a smart play just because he was trying to get the ball on net. I wasn't sure about the first one. I think that's 50-50, but the one with Palumbo, I'd probably be mad if I was Coach Madelon.
So Brown may have caught a break, but they've got a chance to take the lead back here early on as Corsi carries in after his first goal. Top midfield line, Scandrone, McLean, and Corsi, who got his first start of the season today. Couple of storylines. Will we see Jeremy Hopsicker? Wasn't in the starting lineup after he's played all 10 and started 6. And then Marcus Wertheim, who's tied for the team lead with 22 points. Warmed up last week against Cornell, didn't play, warmed up today. We'll see if we see number 13, who had a big goal against Princeton last year. Corsi top side, here's Scandrone, short stick matchup. Cooper Miller, the defender. Brady O'Kane, talented freshman, coming off a 4-point contest, his first career hat trick last week against number 1 Cornell. Scandrone, 5 on the shot clock, trying to muscle his way in. Princeton slides. Pass through traffic, batted down, and a shot clock violation against Brown.
Unbelievable defense by Princeton, but I think if you're Brown, you're not terribly unhappy with that. You had a really long possession. I think they could probably push it a little bit more. There was a few of those shots, that I think they might have been able to pull the trigger on late in the shot clock. But I love, committing to the game plan of really trying to grind them down.
Princeton comes out with their second midfield today. That's Kramer, that 6'5 frame, right into the goalie, saved by Foley. It was Kramer, Saris, and Kammer in the second midfield line for Jim Mitchell and Matt Madelon. Brown quickly back the other way.
And if you're Brown, I think you're happy with that one just because if you can get Foley some good shots early, like shots from spaces on the field that he's happy to see, he might be able to get hot. If you're Coach Madelon, Coach Mitchell, I'm not loving that shot early on in the possession. I think that Princeton could get that, whenever they want, I would say, more times than not.
Brown, it's really been different personnel every week. They've been dealing with so many injuries, lost 3 or 4 of their key players before the season started. Second midfield line out on the field. Udo, the attackman, comes up top, hands off Felix Rockefeller. Luke Delasici wearing number 20. He gets bottled up. Now O'Kane with the shot clock at 25. Back up top. Underneath Molshine. Shot with a tumble came in from Wertheim, who's running with the second midfield today.
Oh, he had him.
Shot clock down to 10. Brown still trying to cycle it around. Here's Delasici up top. Shot in the goal. Brady O'Kane, the freshman, and Brown back on top. After back-to-back shot clock violations, Brown again showing a lot of patience. Had it down on the turf a couple of times, but able to capitalize.
I know. I think they were pretty opportunistic here, just kind of going at the net and letting a few fly, but they're going to need to do this all day. I love how they're sort of bullying the short stick here, and the simple passes will work. Bump it one more, straight down, overhand, high to low. It was a great offensive possession.
John Torpy, the first-year head coach, but he was able to bring 3 of his 4 members of his High Point coaching staff, and one of them, a name familiar to Princeton, Logan Wisnowskis from that 2022 Final Four run, Maryland. Moving into an assistant coaching role, and John Torpy talking about Logan and the staff and how good of a job they've done managing the pieces.
Yeah, if you're thinking about, coming to Brown and he's on the staff, someone who's been obviously the best player in the country, incredible in the PLL, Coach Torpy as well as Logan, they're just all about development, and they take players and they work on their fundamentals and make them into excellent lacrosse players.
Brown with another face-off win, so face-offs 2 apiece. Bears jumped out to a 1-0 lead on the goal by Corsi. Princeton immediately answered on the goal by Tucker Wade. And then the tally by Brady O'Kane, 7th of the season, his 4th over the past 2 games as they started 3 freshmen on attack. O'Kane against one of the best in the Ivy League in Michael Bath. On a bounce out to the midfield, corralled by Corsi. And he'll look to go to work against Kelly. Corsi, left hand, pass down low, finds its way to Croddick.
He had it too. Princeton's got something.
Tigers in transition up ahead. Here's Friedman, the pole. Cooper Miller, the trailer, goes top shelf, and we're back tied up at 2. Princeton, see stops before that. The associate head coach at Dartmouth. Stop at Denver before that, and a very good player, a captain at Ohio State, and now in his first season taking over at Brown. And he talked about it, right? Team that has historically won, has had a couple of down seasons, but a really good foundation in place.
Yeah, and he's focused on growth. You know, I think I'm not sure he's as focused on measuring success by wins and losses. He's just been really impressed, I think, when we talk to them about the type of character and players on this team. You know, they're committed and they love to play. They love to play for each other, and I think that's why you're going to see just such a big scrap today.
2-2 the score. We've gone back and forth. Princeton's latest goal in transition by Cooper Miller, a defensive midfielder. Here's Corsi, who got the scoring started with the first goal of the game for Brown just a couple minutes into the contest. Working on Liam, Fairback gets a screen from Udo, the big freshman, on attack. Brown's been patient, turning the corner. Easy stop for Croddick. Princeton comes away with it.
Nice stop by Croddick. I like the take. I think it's pretty good. Maybe you try to drain it a little bit more, but you can't be, crazy conservative every single possession. I love the way that they started things earlier on.
If you're Brown, you can't give up possessions, and so far today they've done a good job of maintaining ball security.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the beginning. I think that there's times when Princeton become a little cavalier, would you say, with the ball just in the middle of the field. There's some compounding errors that sort of come up, you know what I mean?
Princeton's really interesting. They've got 3 games this year where they've turned the ball over at least 19 times, and they've got 3 games where they've turned the ball over just 6 times.
Yeah, so you never know, which team's going to show up, and even some of those simple transfer passes just go awry.
Hard collision on the screen, near side. It'll stick with the Bears. Delasici, who had the assist on the last goal by O'Kane. Or O'Kane, rather. Ennis Udo has the stick lifted, and they're going to call it a shot, so it'll stay with the Bears. Udo's a big freshman, 6'2", 205.
It's a strong take. What I'd love to see them get back to is attack from these corners. Find the short stick on the backside, attack from one end, 2 passes, and move it.
There's a save by Croddick. Brown there with the backup with O'Kane. One name we haven't really called a lot today is Aiden McLean, their leading scorer, the senior.
Oh, nice check.
Stick is down, and it goes back to Princeton.
I think that was Bath on the back check. That's a tongue twister. Back on the Bath check.
Bath, I'm going to say that 3 times fast. There's a quiz later. Bath, 58 career caused turnovers, now past Zach Currier last weekend.
That's a pretty good one to
Next
pass.
up, George Bond. Was looking back, Zach Currier's senior season. Has anyone ever had a better individual season?
No.
Right, 58 points, I think, was the number. Was also one of the better face-off men in the league or in the country. Had 130 ground balls. Unreal performance. Good-looking shot, getting above goal line, extended by Palumbo. It'll stay with the Tigers.
And solid movement there. I like the right-hand take from Palumbo, something you don't see that often.
Currier, 58 points, 56% on the face-off, 130 ground balls. Shot clock to 30.
Nice
First, good look by Mackesy. Clean save by Foley. Long carom. Here comes Mark Witt with the headman pass. Up ahead, Behrens in transition. Makes the feed. The shot saved by Croddick. Came in from Wertheim.
Gotta love the end-to-end. The Cave and Mackesy matchup is fantastic. Then you see Witt in the middle of the field.
3 multi-year starters on the back line. Charlie Cave, Mark Witt, Trey Taylor. Cave last week. It's kind of strange. You can say, okay, the guy you were covering had 4 goals and 5 points, but that's actually significantly under C.J. Kirst's season average. So you get to cover C.J. Kirst, and then your reward for doing a good job is Coulter Mackesy.
And it looks like Brown slipped into a little bit of his zone here, which right as I say it.
Colin Burns takes advantage, and the Tigers have their first lead of the contest, 3-2, 5 goals by 5 different players in the early going.
Yeah, just as I was about to give them praise for slipping into a zone and throwing a little junk, I think Witt just goes upfield a little bit too much, and Burns has just done a great job. He's been hot recently.
Well, and who is Burns looking at? Number 2, Nate Kabiri. They were club teammates. They were high school teammates. They're in their second season playing together. If you're on defense, you've got to kind of respect that relationship and that chemistry.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think. I mean, he goes under the radar a little bit. I think, Coulter and Kabiri get a lot of praise.
Sacks off the face-off win, fires wide, and Princeton with good hustle from Croddick will get it back.
Yeah, but to finish that point, I think Colin Burns does a lot of fundamentally sound things on the field, and he's a pretty darn good shooter, and he moves around the crease really well, and does a lot of things for this offense.
It's crazy. You mentioned Colin Burns flying under the radar. He's got 3 straight hat tricks.
Yeah, pretty good.
Had the game-winning goal in overtime and the victory to open the season on the road in Happy Valley, 11-10 against Penn State back in mid-February. Ivy Offensive Player of the Week after that performance. Final 3 minutes of the first quarter, Princeton with their first lead of the contest, 3-2. Nate Kabiri bringing his defender Bean behind the cage. And Kabiri goes to work, tough angle, stick to side by Foley. Towards the sideline, it'll stay with Princeton. Cameron was closest.
Kabiri's so slick with that shot coming around the corner. Maybe one more step. He had held the slide long enough where I think he could have gotten one more step to improve his angle. But he's also shown time and time again he can score.
We talked to Colin Burns after the victory last week against Vermont. Had a couple of goals where it didn't look like he had an angle, and I loved his line, did you have an angle? No, but the stick's got eyes. And speaking of having eyes, that's Kramer with a shot. Goal cutting across the center, and then he took some contact. That's Carson Kramer. It's 4-2 Princeton, but Kramer a little bit slow to get up.
Yeah, he took a pretty good hit. But what I think is actually positive to note about this play, though, is where they're at in the shot clock. So in this era, right, when you start to get under 10 seconds, you want to make sure that you're not giving up transition going the other way. So a lot of times you don't want to go sort of south to north passes. What Kramer does here, though, is he gets it in a really strong spot against the short stick, gets his guy beat to the middle of the field, improves his angle, and under 10 seconds, they're actually able to sub everyone off and be back on defense.
7th goal of the season for Kramer, running with the second midfield line, who didn't take a ton of contact, but crumbled down to the ground and then was finally able to pop up. He'll walk off with the training staff. So the Tigers will hope their big 6'5 sophomore is okay.
Yeah.
And he'll head right back into the huddle.
A little bit of an awkward hit.
Saw the defender, that was Owen Richter, one of their freshman poles, just kind of turned the back and tried to turn away from it. Kramer went to the huddle, and he's heading over to the bench, grabs the water bottle, so appears to be no worse for the wear, just shaken up. And here's where Brown has to be really careful. It was 1-0 Brown, it was 2-1 Brown, and then 3 straight Princeton goals. Past couple weeks, tight losses against Yale on the road, Cornell at home. Brown's been back and forth, and then the game just kind of started to spiral. Yeah,
and this is, I think, a big test here where, they shouldn't get outside of their game plan, right? I think on offense they've done such a good job of grinding the Princeton defense down. Looks like there's a flag, but don't do things that are uncharacteristic and can sort of be compounding.
Wasn't sure if it was going to be a slash or a hold, but they're going to get McMeekin, the face-off man, for the hold for Princeton. Take a look.
Yeah, I think he got him in the back. just a little bit.
So it'll be a 30-second penalty. Princeton, one of the least penalized teams in the country, just their 14th of the season, although they're 7th the past 3 weeks. Brown's man-up unit, 28%, last in the Ivy League, 56th out of 74 teams. Princeton's man-down defense has been pretty good, although a small sample size. Croddick with the clean save. Colin Mulshine trying to run out the final few seconds on the man down. They get it back to Croddick, and the penalty expires.
Well, it was a fantastic set by Brown, and Croddick kind of beat him to it. I think he just got a good jump on the shot there. It was offside hip.
Tigers have 3 seconds to get it across, and they do with 1 second to spare. 5 saves on 7 shots by the Tigers' first-year starter in goal, the junior Ryan Croddick. Told you he's the only netminder in the country with multiple 20-plus save performances. The first one in his first career start, 22 saves in that overtime victory against Penn State. And then 24 saves about a month ago against Rutgers as Wade left.
Great save. Foley gives a big fist pump to the bench, but a great set by Princeton. It started with Kabiri up top, but once you get that movement and you're able to get one slide going, they were able to get Bonanno on the backside 1v1. He actually had 2 options. He had Wade and Kabiri open for shots.
Here's Kabiri. Carries up top, now works it back down low. Tucker Wade from the alley. Comes topside, lets it fly with Burns to back it up.
And you can see the respect that they're giving Kabiri. They've got a wit on him, which is a pretty good matchup to watch on the right side as well.
You could also say Kabiri's numbers down a little bit. He's only got 32 points through 10 games.
I think he'll be all right long run.
32 goals, 57 points last year as a freshman. Was an All-Ivy selection. Kabiri, skip pass. Here's Mackesy. Mackesy against Cave, goes right side. He's a lefty, goes stick side high. Easy save, Foley. If you're Brown, that's exactly the spot you want to put Mackesy.
100%. It's a good 1v1 battle. It's their best D guy versus Princeton's best offensive guy, and I think that point goes to Brown.
Brown clears it across, but time expires as the first quarter comes to an end. Brown got out to an early lead just over a minute in. The goal by Corsi in his first start. Wade tied it. Brady O'Kane gave Brown the lead, but 3 in a row by the Tigers. Brown pulled off the upset last year, but it's 3 straight. Dartmouth got off to a great start, but scuffling just a bit in Ivy League play. Andrew McMeekin with the face-off win, 3 straight goals for the Tigers, and we're underway here in the second quarter. You could argue that you could take any of the 7 teams in the league, and there's certain leagues in the country where you'd put them there and they'd be the favorite.
Every week is a tough game. It really is a gauntlet of a schedule.
And for Princeton, their Final Four run 2022, so just 3 years ago, they didn't qualify for the Ivy League tournament, but they went to championship weekend.
Yeah, it's just crazy to watch. Didn't even make their own tournament, but then go on to be in the Final Four.
Kabiri turns the corner, turned aside, Foley diving, and he's there on the run out. Great hustle by the sophomore goalie.
You gotta love his energy, right? He's all over the field, he's fist pumping, he's loose, and I think they feed off of that. If I'm Brown, I'm okay with that shot, with giving up that shot. You see they didn't really slide to Kabiri there, and they're letting Witt kind of go on an island with him.
They've got 2 really good one-on-one defenders in Mark Witt and Charlie Cave. Brown trying to clear it. Ball is loose. Contact. Princeton took a hit. Miller comes away with it. Tigers have a 4-on-3. Gets away from Mackesy. He'll corral, and he'll take some wind out of the sails.
I would use it here. Grind down the defense a little bit. They're pretty solid on the man up, I would say.
Flag down on the back end, and now we'll wait and see what the penalty is.
Good job. Great job. Hell yeah, baby. Fouls on Brown, number 43. Illegal body check. 1 minute full time.
Aiden McLean, illegal body check was the call, so it'll be 1 minute. And the Tigers will bring the nation's top man-up unit out on the field.
And full time?
Yeah, locked in.
It looks like that's locked in. I think it's okay to take some chances. I would have loved to see, I think, Mackesy probably slow that down just a little bit. Grind the defense, as much as you can, and then go in and play a tired man down unit. but they are pretty talented in that aspect of the game.
Princeton's got Cameron at the top. Keep an eye on 36, Braden Saris. 3 of his 4 goals have come on the man up. Big senior from Canada.
You can see Brown's throwing a little bit of junk, sort of shutting off down low.
There's Mackesy. Misfires over the crossbar. Burns there to back it up.
And I think if you're Brown, you're kind of okay with that. You know, Witt sliding up to Mackesy from about 9.
Right side, Cameron, extra pass. Tigers showing patience, 30 seconds left on the man up. Mackesy again bounces it, saved by Foley. Loose on the crease, and Foley is able to drop the lid.
That's a win for Brown. I think they threw, a little something down low. They were shutting Palumbo on and off as the ball rotated around. They get Foley into a spot where he's comfortable seeing that type of shot.
Mateo Corsi across midfield. Penalty expires, but offsides. So Princeton will get it right back. Brown was up 1-0. Brown was up 2-1, but 3 consecutive goals have the Tigers on top. And there's Mackesy cutting in transition for the goal. Can't lose track of number 91. There's 4 in a row for the Tigers, and Brown will take a timeout.
Yeah, I think that's we're going to have to see the replay here, but just playing fast.
Coulter Mackesy, goal 155, now 8 behind the Tigers' career leader, Jesse Hubbard. And that's 4 in a row for the Tigers.
Yeah, it looks like Cameron just playing fast. Gets it up to Kapiri, and a great cut by Mackesy, an easy finish.
Tournament for the 4th consecutive season. Back-to-back Ivy tournament titles. We mentioned that Final Four run where the Tigers didn't qualify for the NCAA tournament. Go back 5.5 decades, the only head coach with a higher winning percentage here in Princeton. Bill Tierney, who's a 7-time national champion. And Ryan, you know Coach Madelon as well as anyone. He was your offensive coordinator and then took over as the interim head coach midway through your senior season.
Yeah, he's just as good of a coach as I've ever been around. The consummate teacher. Totally optimistic, but always sort of holds you to a super high standard. I really enjoyed playing for him.
Standard set for the Tigers, the number 1 RPI in the country, 8-2 on the season, 6 RPI, top 20 wins this year. 4 straight goals. Mackesy sets up Kabiri, misfires, but Princeton there with the backup.
But you gotta love the action up top, starting with Bonanno. He goes over the top and he causes some commotion, but the throwback to Mackesy, who goes hard over the top, and the simple bumps are working.
No shot clock reset. Palumbo seems to enjoy the contact. Flag comes out. Haven't called Chad Palumbo's name. He's got 26 points through 10 games, and he was really the star down the stretch in a victory against UNC back in early March. So the flag went down, but it sounds like Princeton took a timeout before the flag was down on the field, so no penalty.
Yeah.
Each team with 1 timeout remaining.
Yeah, to continue that point on Palumbo, I think he's really benefited. He played box all summer long last year, and I think he's going to continue to do that this summer in Orangeville. But you can see he kind of craves some of that contact sometimes. He mentioned he enjoys when people sort of start to bump off of him, but his stick skills are fantastic, and the way he protects his stick, he scored some really nifty goals this year, and I think that really has paid dividends playing box and now coming onto the field where it's a much larger place to play.
Brown still in search of their first Ivy League victory, although they were neck and neck with the number 1 team in the country last week. 1-goal loss on the road down at Franklin Field to open Ivy League play, and they've played some really good teams tough. A top 20 BU squad, a 1-goal loss, 5-goal loss against Georgetown. So you mentioned it earlier, Ryan, when we talked to Coach Torpy, right? You'd love to get the wins, but not really judging success of the program in his first season on wins and losses, really focused on the process.
Sure, and we talked about this a lot in the Open. He commands respect from the team and his peers. Do we talk about the scout from last week a little bit? I mean, that's something when we talk to him too. He's always, I think, finding new ways to get his team excited and to play together for each other. And he talks about doing that back at High Point.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. So John Torpy a couple of years ago at High Point, midweek practice, didn't really have the energy he was hoping for. So he challenged him and said, hey, if the scout team beats the top group, scout team's going to start. And that hadn't happened until last week. So the scout team got the start against Cornell. They were on the field for one possession before he turned back to the starters, but really just trying to find creative ways to keep things competitive.
Yep. Great job by Foley there to stifle. I think it was Palumbo who was behind.
Tucker Wade, shot clock under 10. Mackesy over to Bonanno. He's a lefty. Shot clock ticking down, gets the shot off, finds its way to Foley, and he makes the save. He's got 6.
I think I would have loved to seen Bonanno actually shoot that off of the pass earlier. It was a nifty little pick there by Palumbo just to shade his guy so he couldn't slide out. I think if you just got to catch that, and I think you got to shoot it immediately.
4-0 run for the Tigers, a little bit of a scoring drought for the Bears here. They haven't scored since the 8:42 mark of the first quarter.
But I think if you're Brown here, get back to basics. Get back to what got you, that 1-0 or that 2-2 tie. And I think it's attacking from each of these corners, making Princeton slide and then move it. But Princeton's done a good job of this all year as well. They slip into this zone, and it sort of starts to stifle you a little bit, or any type of advantage that you've had. You think you know what you're doing, and then they throw out this zone that's pretty darn good.
Wertheim, who sat out last week's game with an injury on the slick conditions. That one tipped across midfield. Mackesy picks it up and then steps out of bounds, and it's going back the other way with Brown.
I think I'd probably let that one go, but that's easy for you and me to say up here probably.
Got tangled up on the sideline with Charlie Cave, who
good job by Cave. I think in that point, he held up a little and ensured that he didn't extend those arms and push him.
Take advantage of being on the sideline.
Yeah.
14-minute scoring drought for the Bears. They get it back to Corsi, who scored the first goal of the game just over a minute in. Up top through Scandone. Now Aiden McLean, their leading scorer. Aiden McLean, his 2 previous career games against the Tigers, 8 goals, 30 shots, including 19 shots 2 years ago. Brady O'Kane, the freshman attackman, he had the second goal. Across the front through traffic, finds its way to Udo. Here's O'Kane, gets below the defense, saved by Croddick. Molshine had it, has it knocked away.
Ride.
O'Kane with the ride and the takeaway. It'll go back with Brown in a fresh shot clock.
I'd like to see a little bit better spacing here from Brown. Even on that last set, I think you can bump it through X and then attack the backside where there's some odd numbers. Within this zone, you want to think about spacing. You want to attack one person, and then you want to find sort of the seam on the backside. If I'm them, I'm looking to the short stick as a starting point to attack, and then going from there and seeing if I can find seams.
Dennis Udo hangs it. Pass over the top of the defense. Here's Corsi. Back over to Wertheim. Short stick matchup up top. Early slide by the Tigers. Through McLean. Princeton with that stifling zone. Nearly thrown away. Scandone able to keep it.
If you're Scandone, you got to be a little bit tighter there just to be a threat.
Wertheim with the shot. Nobody really in the vicinity. They're going to give it to Brady O'Kane, who is on his way to the end line. Princeton defensively, you look at what they've done today, so now nearly a 16-minute scoring drought, and last week against Vermont, Catamounts scoreless for nearly 23 minutes to start the game. Easy stick side save by Croddick. He's got 7.
Yeah, I think he's starting to lock in just a little bit.
Croddick coming into this one, 14.5 saves per game. That leads the nation. He's 11th in the nation in save percentage. That was really the only question mark for this Princeton team, at least outside looking in. How do you replace Michael Gianfraccaro in net?
Yeah, and I think he's answered the bell and then some probably, right?
You talked about Matt Madelon as an offensive coordinator. Matt Madelon, now a Hall of Fame goalie, got into the Roanoke College Hall of Fame where he was a very good netminder in his playing days. You kind of always trust that Matt Madelon's going to have a good goalie.
Yeah, I think he just understands the position and the psyche so well of goalies.
Good to see Carson Kramer back out there. Had a goal and then was slow getting off the field as Mackesy tries to find Burns and they can't connect.
He had him for a moment there, but I believe it was a check by Trey Taylor. Just at the last second, he sort of poked Burns because he was right on that right pipe. It was a great dodge by Kramer. And I think that actually Coulter Mackesy made the right look, but it was more of Brown making a nice play at the last second to stick check Burns. Well, let's see if they go back into the zone. Looks like they're going back into the man.
Midway point of the second quarter, 4 straight goals for the Tigers after Brown jumped out to an early 2-1 advantage. Brown got goals by Corsi, the senior, and O'Kane, the freshman. Forrest Dimitri getting his first run. Ball down on the turf, 50-50 ball. Brown will keep it, and they'll work it over to Marcus Wertheim, the junior from St. James, New York. Showed you coming out of the first break, Wertheim had what went down as the game-winning goal, took some contact and scored with 2.5 minutes to go in Providence last year against Princeton. Made it 13-12, and that was the final. Here's a shot on the move, and it's misfired by Spencer Hughes. So first look at the third midfield line today. Nice
action, though, in changing fields, right? Starting on the left side with some pick action, moving the ball, and then just, again, it's always about those simple one-more passes. Not a bad look.
Shot clock at 10. Wertheim up top, shot stick side high once again, easy save. Came in from Delicici. Princeton in transition. Miller had one as the trailer earlier, but now the Tigers will settle it in.
I think that's the right move, settle it down a little bit, although if I'm Muller, I might pull it. He's shown that he's got a little bit of range in the past few games.
Worth noting, Princeton playing for the second straight week without Jackson Green, one of their top defensive midfielders. It's really been him and Cooper Miller, a couple of two-sport athletes. Top two in a very, very deep unit that goes 6 or 7 deep.
Nice check.
Palumbo has it trail checked away by Michael Dowd for the Bears. Tigers keep it. Out of bounds, going back to the Bears.
Yeah, a little weird from the start there, right? It just got a little sticky up top, but you got to credit Brown more so for the checks.
Just the 5th Princeton turnover, just the 9th total turnover in what's been a relatively cleanly played game. Brown able to take it across. Here's Cave with the pole. Thought about it. He'll pass it in and then head off to the sideline. And Brown will take a timeout.
I actually like that timeout by Coach Torpy. 4:40 left, 5-2, it's within reach. 5-3 is much better. Settle down. You've got mostly a full shot clock, almost 60 seconds. You got to probably go in and plan for both the zone and man, but I'd love to see them continue to attack short sticks in space. When they do that and they get Princeton rotating and sliding, that was physically extremely impressive. But I do love the way that they sort of set him up on that left side, and then he finishes with his right. Heck of a take.
Udo, a very good athlete, played 3 sports at Malvern Prep: football, basketball, lacrosse. He's got a sister who plays women's lacrosse at Brown. Big face-off here. Brown back within 2. Princeton able to come away with it with McMeekin, who draws the flag. Ball down on the turf. Brown touches it up, and we'll get our second look of the day at the nation's top man-up unit for Princeton. McMeekin almost wondering why he sort of tailed off of that plane. It looked like maybe his helmet was starting to come off.
Yeah, that was a little confusing to me as well.
So 30 seconds, foul for the push. I think he may have had the helmet start to pop off.
Yeah, I think you can see it. Yep.
Yeah, took a stick.
His chin strap's falling off just a little bit.
So P.J. Bean, who was the one that hit him in the mask, that draws the flag, or that was after the flag.
Yeah, if you're Brown, you got to win that face-off. They had it coming out of the clamp.
Princeton 0 for 1 on the man up. Coming into this one, the nation's top unit, 64.7%. Tigers cycling, stepping in Kabiri, and he capitalizes. Princeton gets that lead back, 6-3 Tigers. Another man-up tally. Princeton now 12 for 19.
Yeah, I think the hallmark of a great man-up is starting in one set and switching to another. So we'll start to see through this. They start in one set and then they start to rotate around. As you do that, you see Saris sort of start to crash to the crease. What that does, it brings the rest of the Brown long poles down, and it allows the skip over the top from Burns to Kabiri. Kabiri from that angle.
It's a lot of cage to shoot on.
And just a beautiful job by the camera work. We'll give a little shout out to them, but always nice to see it from that backside angle. He can rip the ball, and he put it in a great spot. But credit to Coach Mitchell on that. Again, when you start to shift in all of those different types of sets, really hard to guard from a defensive perspective.
Nate Kabiri has got a goal and an assist. McMeekin bit for his first goal of the season. Burns will let it roll out of bounds wisely, and it stays with Princeton. Kabiri, now 91 points. He's got a chance to become just the 6th Princeton player to reach 100 points after his sophomore season. The other names on that list, Michael Sowers, Kevin Lowe, Jesse Hubbard, Ryan Boyle, Coulter Mackesy.
Pretty good company.
Princeton doubling up Brown here at home after the Bears beat Princeton in Providence last year, an upset win over then number 13 Princeton. Here's Saris running with the second midfield line. Did that get over the line?
I think it was in.
Let's wait for the call. The officials will converge. It's just got across the line, and that's a Princeton goal by Saris.
We gotta love that. So we were talking to Coach Madelon before the game about this a little bit, and we said, hey, like, how are you thinking about your midfield lineups? And he said, we're going to throw Braden Saris in there. One is a transfer guy, and, you know, we'll probably see this if we roll it back just a little bit further, but he's done a great job of being in the right spot during the right times. And on that one specifically, he got to the top of the box, transferred it to Mackesy, but he did a really, really slick play. This is probably his Canadian background, where he cut across the face of his defender, and he was able to gain leverage and advantage, caught it in front of his face, and then, I mean, it's a pretty tough fake. Just tickled the twine a bit.
5th goal of the season, just his second 6-on-6 goal. He's been a lethal weapon on man-up situations. You mentioned Saris. He's Canadian. He's from Ontario, so he's got that box background. He's also 6'3", 205 pounds, a really unique skill set for Coach Madelon.
Yes, soft hands, knows how to move, and is doing some things that probably don't jump out on the stat sheet today. But what I respect about that is he's committing to the game plan. You know, Coach Madelon saying, here's what I need you to do for us to be successful, and he gets rewarded on that play.
And Saris has had a really interesting career. As McLean tries to bounce it, it'll stay with the Bears. Saris, a couple of years ago, he opened the 2023 season, so his sophomore season opened as a starter, had 6 points in the opener. Didn't finish the season as a starter, but has really done a great job the past 2 years playing his role and doing it well.
Absolutely.
Back to a 4-goal Princeton lead.
And I think if I'm Brown, I got to figure out a way to get McLean involved a little bit more. You see he got really aggressive on that play, just taking it down the heart of the defense. I think if I'm Coach Wisnauskas, I'm trying to just find him for finish dodges.
There's a wraparound shot. Not sure if that was on cage or not, but it'll be Princeton scooping it up and looking to clear with Molsheim.
It's a strong take from Udo. Craddock does such a great job of, I think, anticipating where shooters are going to finish. And on that one, you could see Udo was sort of falling down, and he just beat him to the punch.
Aiden McLean officially no shots on goal today for Brown after he took 30 shots the previous 2 meetings against Princeton.
So this is a big possession for Princeton. If I'm Coach Madelon, I'm looking at this, but I might call a timeout, maybe not. But purely just to say, let's end this on a high note. Let's figure out a way to make this an 8-3 game.
Peter Bonanno splits the defense, sticked aside, took some contact. Right to Nate Kabiri, comes topside, feet out in front, and they go right back to Bonanno for the top shelf goal. Second chance effort. Pays off for the Tigers, and they're up 8-3, their largest lead of the contest.
Starts with Bonanno just going hard, and he takes a pretty big hit at the end there. I think we'll see it on the replay, but he just goes right down the heart of the defense. Foley, I think, makes a nice play on it, but Kabiri, picking up the loose ball, and Bonanno not giving up on it.
Peter Bonanno really coming on over the past couple of weeks. He was ranked as the number 7 recruit in this year's class, according to Inside Lacrosse. Starting for the 5th consecutive game. That midweek contest against Lehigh 2 weeks ago had 4 points. That matched his career total, his season total coming into that contest. So Peter Bonanno's got another goal, and Bonanno now on the season, 6 goals, 5 assists.
Jump on Princeton.
Back to the Bears, who really need a goal here to stay within striking distance. All of a sudden, it's a 5-goal Princeton lead. Final minute of the first half. Haven't called number 45 a lot. That was Wells Bly. He's a senior from San Francisco who got the start last week. Final 25 seconds. How about that defense by Cooper Miller to cause the turnover?
And if you're Brown, you're just thinking, all right, worst case, we end this at 8-3. Now Princeton's got a shot.
Liam Fairback thought about firing. 10 seconds to go. The Tigers have to hurry. Here's Mackesy. They'll let him go to work. Coulter Mackesy, the worm burner, misses wide.
I think if I'm Kabiri, I'm yelling, give me the ball.
Kabiri out in front, hit his intended target. That was Friedman with the pole. So Princeton gets the takeaway. Didn't have the offensive personnel they wanted. But Matt Madelon's got to be really happy with an 8-3 lead at the half.
Absolutely. I think they did a great job just finding ways to grind out some of those possessions, both on offense and defense. Scoring's been pretty well distributed. Some nice goals, and then some ones that, like Bonanno's last one, kind of just came off of some chaos and they stuck with the play.
Brown had a 1-0 lead. Brown had a 2-1 lead, but Princeton finishing the first half on a 7-1 run over the final 23 minutes. The number 3 team in the country with a 5-goal halftime lead at home here at Sherrod Field. Good day. You can see the note on the bottom. Talked about the balance of this Princeton offense. 8 players, each with 1 goal apiece. 3 Brown players with a goal apiece. Face-offs tilted slightly towards the Bears, and one note that doesn't show up there. Princeton, the nation's top man-up offense, 1 for 2 over the first 30 minutes. If you're Brown, Ryan, what do you have to do to try to climb back in?
Well, look, I think it starts in the middle of the field. They need to win these 50-50 ground ball chances. I think when you get to defense, they're actually doing a pretty good job, all things considered. You think about Coulter Mackesy, Cave has done an amazing job of keeping him somewhat quiet, only the 1 goal in transition. Offensively, again, I think they need to think through their spacing a little bit. There's times where things are getting just a little bit jumbled together. When they're able to take runs at their guy and get a step on them, good things tend to happen. And then it's going to be, shot placement with Craddock.
Tucker Wade opened up the scoring for the Tigers, has been pretty quiet since as he hands off to Bonanno in the midfield. Starters back out for the Tigers. Burns, Kabiri, Mackesy on the attack. Palumbo, Bonanno, and Wade on that top midfield line. Nate Kabiri stings it. Make it 8 of the last 9 for Princeton, and it's 9-3 Tigers.
Yeah, they kind of lulled them to sleep on the right side a bit. What I think that Jim Mitchell does a really good job of, he moves players all over the field. That's Kabiri on the left side of the field. So it starts with the 2-man action on the right side, but he starts to lull in the Brown defense, creates a one-on-one on the backside with Kabiri, and that's just a funky spot, to put Witt into, guarding Kabiri, who's typically coming from X.
Nate Kabiri's second goal of the day. He's also got 2 assists, so Kabiri now 17 goals, 19 assists. Give him 93 career points, and he's just a sophomore.
And I love his confidence. He just doesn't seem phased at all. I don't know if you have an additional thought on that. He never wavers. He's never afraid to shoot it.
I think you can say that, and that might be one of Matt Madelon's favorite things. You can say that about everybody, right? Whether it's Kabiri has 5 goals and Mackessy's quiet, like they're all kind of the same guy.
Right.
No matter who the star is.
So a good break for Brown here. Look, let's get back to this. Let's dodge from the corners. Let's get his people in space, and let's finish on the backside, going at slides that are sort of coming to your face.
Brown jumped out to a 1-0 lead. Brown jumped out to a 2-1 advantage, but the Tigers have scored 8 of the last 9.
Princeton slipping back into this zone.
Aiden McLean, we talked about what he's done against the Tigers. 8 goals over 2 games, number 43. Didn't officially have a shot in the first half. McLean with a lot of room to work with now. Corsi waits for the slide. O'Kane had a first half goal after his hat trick last week, first of his career. Scandone lowers the shoulder through traffic, can't connect, but it comes to O'Kane. 15 on the shot clock. There's McLean and just never quite queued it up.
Princeton does such a good job in that zone of condensing space. And they do such excellent work, and this is a credit to the coaching staff of just helping and recovering, right? Like you feel like you never have an advantage when you're working against that zone.
Over the top to Mackessy, who carries back out into the midfield. This coaching staff has had so much consistency, which you look at really successful programs year in and year out. That's generally a hallmark of them. Matt Madelon in his 9th season on the Princeton sideline. Jeremy Hirsch, 7th season, former Princeton captain. He's the defensive coordinator. We've talked a lot about Jim Mitchell. He's in his 5th season. Browns made a change in goal. Andy Demopoulos out there to start the second half. So Demopoulos makes the save. Trying to fire up the Browns sideline. Let's see if the Bears can get one back in transition and try to climb back in. There's a shot in transition and a save by Croddick. Came in from Oliver Bly, a defensive midfielder. Ball still down on the turf.
Great ground ball.
Tigers, that's Hunter Spees, who's starting for the 2nd consecutive game. He was a top 20 recruit last year. We've been talking a lot about Jim Mitchell. He's got a really interesting background. He was the head coach at Bellarmine for a season, took over close to the start of the season, and then was an assistant coach at Rutgers. And at his time in Piscataway, he was the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator at different times.
Yeah.
It has to give you a really interesting perspective on the game.
Yeah, and I think he commands a lot from his players. Something that I respect about him, all of them are great riders. That goes back to even when he was coaching Sowers. Sowers would say, I'm not going to be able to play unless I ride, and that's straight from Coach Mitch.
Coulter Mackessy trying to go low, and another big save by Demopoulos, making just his 2nd appearance of the season.
He's on it. That's 2 shots in a row where I think he's read, the shooter's stick extremely well, which is so difficult to do. But on both of those takes, he was quick to go low because the stick started low and finished low.
Andy Demopoulos, the senior out of Darien, Connecticut. Darien High School, alma mater of Princeton head coach Matt Madelon. For Demopoulos, just his 2nd appearance this year, just the 3rd of his career.
They're off. Princeton's got a little something.
Procedural sends it back the other way. Cooper Miller over to Mackessy. Tigers will try to get the right personnel. Finn Fox is a heck of a player, but probably not someone you want in the set offense. Top midfield line, Peter Bonanno running out of the box. Good job by Samari Staton to make sure that he didn't get an extra step. And the Tigers turn it over.
We talked about that a little earlier in the game. It's just, as you go down the stretch here, how do you figure out ways to limit that from happening? And I think it's take a couple steps, towards the person you're passing to and just ensure that doesn't happen. But, if this is a closer game, that's a big swing.
7th turnover by the Tigers. Brown will look to capitalize. Top midfield checks in. Ben Scandone jogging in out of the box. Brown scored just one goal in the second quarter. That was a goal by the freshman on attack, Enes Udo. 6-goal lead, largest of the day for Princeton. Through Aiden McLean, has just one shot on goal so far today, has a short stick matchup. Owen Fisher on their leading scorer. Never let him get his hands free. That was the freshman Warden coming in, and Princeton with the takeaway.
I actually liked what Brown was doing earlier on. They're drawing Cooper Muller out just a little bit more.
Another turnover by the Tigers.
Yeah. Again, going down the stretch, like those are plays that just can't happen.
Princeton's gotten away with a couple today. They'll look to tighten it up. 9-3, and it's intercepted. You talk about attackmen on the ride. There's Mackesy climbing the ladder at midfield. It's got to warm your
looked like a routine
heart.
pass. Yeah. Pretty good hops there from Mackesy as well.
He'll wait for some reinforcements. Bonanno and Wade joining the fray in the midfield. Palumbo already out there, camped on the crease. Peter Bonanno's got a goal and an assist. The talented freshman puts it on the right side. Princeton 2 regular season games remaining after this, on the road next week against Penn and then home against Yale. Burns in a one-on-one battle against Wertheim, who's stuck on the field. Shot comes in from Wade, backed up. Pretty good second half off the bench. Andy Demopoulos has made 3 early saves here in the third quarter.
Yeah, he looks sharp.
Nate Kabiri, 2-man game with his high school teammate Burns, who fires high. Their starting goalie Foley, 6 saves, 9 goals allowed, played the entire first half. And the Tigers able to capitalize, and Princeton makes it 10-3. 7:32 to go here in the third quarter.
We discussed this, I think, at the opener, right, a little bit. I mean, he's just confident, and he goes right at this matchup.
Did action figure trend, and you were kind of talking about Coulter Mackesy with a long stick. That would be fun. Other than that, AI did a pretty good job with that. What a year for attackmen in the Ivy League, though.
Absolutely.
Face-off win by the Tigers. Cooper Miller with another ground ball, and the Tigers right back on attack. Cutting across the front, that was Miller. Wonderful save by Demopoulos. Cooper Miller bidding for his second goal of the day, and now Brown will look to clear.
I mean, just another great job by Demopoulos reading where the shooter was going.
Brown looking to strike in transition. Udo lets it fly.
That was a chance.
A lot of torque from the big 6'2 freshman.
I think he had Croddick screened a little bit too. He froze him just a tad bit, and it was off the mark. I'd love to see them kind of change the plane on some of their shots. Even that one was about high to high. Some of the more routine ones that Croddick has had, he hasn't really had to move much.
Brown at one point had a 2-1 lead, but since then it's been 9 of the last 10 by the Princeton Tigers. Still a lot of lacrosse left to be played. Still 21-plus minutes in this contest. They'll start it all the way out by midfield. Corsi with a head of steam. What a save by Croddick going down low.
Yeah, that's just, it's a great spot. If you're Corsi, you're kind of banging your head a little bit thinking, what do I got to do to get past this guy?
12 saves on 15 shots by the 2-time Ivy League Defensive Player of the Week, Ryan Croddick. First season as the Tigers starter. Second midfield line, Sean Cameron, Carson Kramer, Braden Saris. Kramer and Saris each with a goal in the first half. Good to see Kramer back out there, as he was a little bit slow to get up and make his way to the sideline after that goal. They'll give it to Kramer. Here's a size mismatch.
But I like this adjustment from Brown, sort of pushing out against these short sticks.
Sean Cameron on the move, the bouncer. Got through. Kabiri with the feed back up top. Kramer under his man. couldn't put it on Cage, but takes a big hit. Matt Madelon springing off the sideline as the flag comes down.
Just trying to see where he got him at the end here. Oh,
Oof.
yeah. Yeah, a little bit awkward because he jumped up, and I guess as you're coming down, the crown of your helmet hits his. Strong take to the inside. Not sure there was malicious intent, but it looked a bit gruesome.
Second time that Kramer's been knocked down, and luckily for him and the Tigers, the second time he's been able to bounce up relatively quickly. Princeton will go man up.
Ground foul number 2, legal body check to the head, 2 minutes full time.
So 2 minutes locked in. That's the second infraction against PJP.
Yeah, wow.
2 minutes for legal body check.
2 minutes seems like a lot.
You can hear John Torpy saying shouldn't even be a foul, and Matt Madelon arguing quite the contrary.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be something. 2 seems excessive, but...
And they do have official replay here, so the officials will come over to the monitor and take a look. You are looking at exactly what the officials are looking at. I feel like Princeton Brown always gets a little bit chippy.
Yes, absolutely. It's a good slide. I think both sides of the ball would probably argue that's the right time to hit hard, for lack of better phrasing. It was just kind of awkward, more awkward than I realized.
Previous plays under review.
This might be our best angle.
Yeah, kind of as he opens up.
At full speed, at least, that looked pretty bad.
Foul has been downgraded. Still 1 minute full time.
So 1 minute full time, initially called 2 minute full time, which is sort of what it seemed like you felt initially.
Yeah, I think that
has to be
fair.
something.
There's got to be something. Anytime it's head to head, I think the fact that he actually left his feet and on the way down the collision happened. So let's see what they do on the man up here.
1 minute penalty, and it is locked in. Princeton, we told you in the first half, the nation's #1 man up unit. They were 1 for 2 in the first half, so the Tigers now 12 for 19 on the season. Came in at 65%. Coulter Mackesy has 5 man-up goals. They go to Kabiri, and he goes high to low for the early man-up tally, and still 44 seconds on the clock. What a day by Nate Kabiri, the sophomore. He's got 4 goals and 6 points.
Yeah, another great job on the man up of changing sets. So they do a little bit of action that we'll see. It was actually started with the fake flip. They kind of started into this sideways 3-3 and then morph into a 1-3-2. Saris actually does a good job of dragging the middle guy down to create that lane and then pick your poison, right? You've got the skip to Kabiri. You've got the feed through to Mackesy. But great job from Coach Mitchell of just going, there's a reason why they've been so successful on the man up.
A couple of notes. We'd have to go back and run the numbers, but the number of times that Princeton scored man up with plenty of time to spare, right? They score 16 seconds in, and then you keep talking on man up about changing sets.
Yeah.
So effortless.
Yeah. It's tough from a defensive perspective to go in thinking you're guarding one thing and then have it morph into another. And they're so crisp with their ball movement.
A whistle on the face-off, so possession awarded to the Bears, and they can try to run out the final 30 seconds or so of this man up. Princeton now 2 for 3 with the extra man today as McLean twirls it out near midfield. Being watched by Friedman with just under 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Penalty was 1 minute non-releasable on Bean.
And as they run this out, I think on their last possession, I try to find Corsi, I think, as like the party starter, right? You think about who is going to kickstart the offense, who can beat their man and distribute the ball. He, to me, maybe it's the 42, and he kind of looks like Ryan Augerman or Max Seaball. But he really is able to get a step on his man. I try to find him in space and exploit it.
Corsi sets the screen. Penalty expires. Here's an opportunity by Udo, who slings it wide with Wertheim back there. Talk about Corsi getting the party started. He had the game's first goal about 1 minute and 5 seconds in. Good look by Brown as the penalty expires, so they'll go back at a 6-on-6. 20 on the shot clock. Here's O'Kane, the freshman. Jump shot, tries to turn the corner, easy. Saved by Croddick. He's got 14.
They got something here if they want it. I think that's probably the right call. I wish Brown would have just gone back to that two-man action that they had. Whenever you change fields, I think it's really hard for a defense to guard your offense. Once you start to get people sliding and then beat them with ball movement, I mean, it's a simple philosophy of the ball moves faster than people can actually run. That was the one-on-one matchup isn't quite working, so I'm curious to see next time down if they go back to that action and change fields.
Chad Palumbo with 40 on the shot clock. Over to Tucker. Wade rolls left, has a seam, but decides to tuck it out. Palumbo out in front. There's a shot by Bonanno trying to go low to high. 28 on the Princeton shot clock.
And a heck of a catch. I thought he was going to shoot it backhand. And it would have been the right play.
Nate Kabiri working on a 6-point day for the Tigers. Shot clock down to 15. In the hands of Kabiri, takes it topside, skip pass across the back, and Coulter Mackesie's got another one. Princeton ran the shot clock down to 8 with an 8-goal lead, and they find their leading scorer, Mackesie.
Great execution. I was going to give Brown some credit there because of how they slid and recovered, but it's tough to manage Kabiri, and then on the backside you've got Mackesie. I mean, he just did a great job of dealing with pressure. And then when you get it to someone like Mackesie who can score it, 10 and in, he's pretty automatic.
Second of the game by Coulter Mackesie. The Princeton attack taking over here in the second half of the Tigers have their largest lead of the day at 12-3. Coulter Mackesie, 2 goals, 2 assists. Nate Kabiri, 4 goals, 3 assists, so a 7-point day.
Yeah, he's just been in control. Felt like even on that last dodge, he catches it. It doesn't ever seem, like his head's down and he's out of position. It's always up. He's dealing with pressure, and he's been able to deal it really well today.
Haven't seen a lot of the third midfield line for the Tigers, but we'll get a look. John Dunphy, veteran on that third midfield line. Dunphy, the junior from Ridgewood, New Jersey, with a couple of freshmen, Jake Vanna, Bo Hokinson. They got quite a bit of run as the third midfield line paired with Saris the past couple of non-conference wins against Lehigh and Vermont. 2 talented freshmen. Dunphy, the junior. Here's Mackesie. Short stick matchup against B, and Coulter Mackesie looking for the slide. Princeton just so patient playing with the lead. Mackesie from X, top side, right hand, takes some contact from Witt. Now Kabiri, he's got a 7-point day, looking on the crease for Burns. He can't handle it. Cave with the box out. Burns, broken play, comes top side, dives across the front, stays out of the crease and scores. 5-point day for Colin Burns. He has his second goal of the contest.
A little bit of a chaotic possession there. I don't know how many switches there were. I love the way that they attacked people off of the switches, and then just pure hustle from Burns. This was the stuff that we were talking about earlier in the game. That just kind of shows up as a goal on the stat sheet, but making something out of nothing. There's a broken play, and he's able to pick it up and then takes the extra step to dive across the crease and finish.
10-goal Princeton lead. Look at the attack for the Tigers. 7 points for Kabiri. Now 5 points for Burns, 4 points for Mackesie. There may not be a better attack unit in the country than those 3 for the Tigers, and 2 of them are just sophomores. Face-off win by McMeekin. Princeton will keep possession with a 10-goal lead. Final minute and 15 seconds here in the third quarter as they try to clear. Got to get it across by the time the clock hits 60.
I don't know what I think
that was strange.
Well, I think part of it was they were trying to get McMeekin off the field. But if you're in that position, if I'm McMeekin, I'm saying, give me the ball, right? You can't have your body language say that I'm going off the field and not support your goalie. So some type of miscommunication there, but I'll harp on it again. These unforced turnovers just kill you. And look, you're in a game up 10 goals, but when you start to get deep into the season, that just can't happen.
Final 40 seconds of the third quarter. And Isuto, the freshman, now McLean, who's got just one shot today. Brady O'Kane, the freshman, has one of the 3 goals, and now he's got 2 of the 4 Brown goals as the Bears on the scoreboard for the first time here in the second half, and it comes with 27 seconds to go in the quarter.
Really, really slick play and high degree of difficulty here. Starts with the spacing, and I like how they're attacking the short sticks. If you're Princeton, I think you're saying, hey, we'll give that up. Most times I think Croddick is going to make that, and we're forcing him into a slide. But O'Kane says, I'll do you one better. And that is just an extremely, extremely difficult shot to make.
First Brown goal in about 19 minutes, and pretty good stretch here for Brady O'Kane coming off his first career hat trick in the loss against top-ranked Cornell. O'Kane's now got 2 of the 4 goals today for the Bears, so the freshman from Westchester, PA, a bright spot. Face-off win for the Tigers. Here's Quinn Kramer, older brother of Carson. Pass is intercepted. That's Mark Witt, who we highlighted in the open.
2 great plays. You have Witt with the pickoff, and then you've got Colin Burns just making a play right at the last second to check it out of his stick. I thought for a second Coulter Magazine might have had that catch.
Looked like a wide receiver slant over the middle, and they couldn't connect.
Yeah, but I think Cave did a good job. I think he got the stick check at the end.
Well, I think Coulter Magazine would be a pretty good slot receiver. Princeton had the first 5 goals in the third quarter. First 3 courtesy of that man, Nate Kabiri, who's got a 7-point day. Under the day, Harry LaFerriere coming in. Good job by way of the sophomore.
Yeah, we've discussed this before, but, I'm a big fan of his game. I think he is a really tough cover, especially for a short stick. He goes left, he goes right. When you sort of start to get in on his hands, he's strong enough to deal with the pressure and get out of it. And if you're not on his hands, he can give you a double move. Typically, I think this team does very well when he has at least 2 goals.
Second of the day for Tucker Wade, 14 on the season. He had 17 last year as a freshman to go along with 5 assists. Really came on strong down the stretch. 2 goals in each of Princeton's Ivy League tournament victories. Face-off win for Princeton, and then the intended target, Quinn Kramer, lost his footing. Pinballs around near midfield. Let's see if everyone stays on sides. Somebody's got to pick it up eventually, and it'll be Brown with the ground ball, and that's Cave coming up from the back line.
Yeah, great ground ball.
So Cave on the offensive end. Wertheim gets it out to the midfield. A couple of poles in the mix for the Bears. And now they'll drop it off. Scandone will sit on it as they get the right personnel. Princeton matching their largest lead of the contest at 10. Here's Corsi. He had an early goal for the Tigers, the Syracuse transfer. Knocked away from behind. Molshon and Stahl converge. The flag comes in. And Brown will go man up for the second time today. Wasn't sure if that was going to be Molshine or Stahl, and it looks like it's the latter.
White foul, number 28, Slash. 1 minute.
So Slash on Stahl as we get a look at the new goalie, the junior, Harry LaFerriere. Chatham, New Jersey native out of Avon Old Farms. 17th career game over 3 seasons. You saw the note, pretty athletic family. Got the start last week as they gave the scout team the start, played the first minute in 57 seconds. There's a good look. And that sneaks past Croddick. It's a goal by Rockefeller. And Brown back within 9. Croddick made the initial stop, and it just trickled in.
Yeah, great set here. I think they start in a 1-4, but then on the backside they have some action where the top man sort of carries towards the middle of the field, and then just a simple little throwback, actually. There wasn't a ton of movement, but we talked about it earlier where once you start to move into those sets, you get the defense rotating and you find just a little sliver of light, and it was a great shot, changing planes, going high to low, even though Croddick did get a piece of it.
Felix Rockefeller, 3rd goal of the season, 3rd of his career for the sophomore from New York City out of Deerfield Academy. His sister, Apple, briefly a member of the Princeton women's lacrosse team. The COVID year where there weren't games scheduled and they were trying to fill the roster in to be able to still run some practices. Brown looking to just string together a couple of possessions and make this one a little bit more manageable.
Nice
There's Witt with the ground ball. Shot on the run, tried the bouncer, save, came in from Wertheim. Cooper Miller on the outlet.
And a good job by Staten getting in, shutting off the break.
Second midfield line off the sideline. Again, good to see Kramer running out of the box after he's been slow to get up a couple times. Kramer thought about using that 6'5" frame. He'll swing it back out to the midfield with Cameron.
Yeah, and I think, to go off of your point earlier, right before the Wade goal, what to kind of focus on in this last quarter. If I'm Princeton, it's all about our sets.
Colin Burns, he's got a hat trick, so the 3rd different Princeton player with a hat trick today. He's got a 6-point contest with the Princeton lead back up to 10.
And it's a pretty simple play by Burns, but it goes back to all the little, fundamentally sound things that he does. His guy sort of turned his head or was giving him, a sliver of light, and all he did was just sort of fill the vacancy. But it's a really nice shot going upfield, makes it look routine, but changes planes. And, he's been on fire the last, 4 games? 12 goals in 4 games.
Colin Burns, 3rd consecutive or 4th straight game with a hat trick. So we talked about it, right? May fly under the radar just a little bit. 4 straight hat tricks. He's got 6 points today. He's got 30 points in not quite 11 games.
That was a heck of a ground ball. I think that was by Behrens. He just picked it up in a crowd, then sort of got assaulted by 4 different Princeton guys and then was able to get it out of his stick.
Somehow maintain the handle. Brown will go to work on the attack. I said 3rd Tiger with the hat trick. Burns has a hat trick. Kabiri's got 4 and another one that trickles in for the Bears, who are trying to make a little bit of a late run. You talked about it. It started with the ground ball, and then they're able to keep it alive. Scandone, the junior from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I'm going to let the clip play for a second.
On the feed from Udo.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Pretty well covered by the defensive midfielder Liam Fairback for the Tigers.
Well, look, it's the right time for the play, too. You talk about coaches who say, the behind-the-back play, it's showing up. It really isn't. He did a great job, of cutting and getting his man on his left shoulder, but as soon as he did that, it gave him the better angle to actually shoot around his back, and it caught Croddick off guard a little bit.
As an offensive player, how much do you actually work on that?
I think all players are a bit different. You see, like the Hang In with Kark series, the Kavanaughs do that drill where they throw all those crazy passes to each other and finish at different angles. I do a lot of wall ball work. That sort of starts to work with me. But it does take a lot of reps in practice, but it starts with setting up the right fundamentals.
Princeton going a little bit deeper into the bench on the offensive end. Brown with another takeaway, and the Bears trying to start a little bit of a run here in the 4th quarter. Being with the handoff, here's McLean. He draws the early slide and carries out into the midfield. Brown showing a lot of life for a team that was down double digits here in the 4th quarter. Scandone had the last goal. Here's O'Kane looking for another hat trick, and it's kicked aside by Croddick. He's got 16 saves.
Oh, great job by Brown here. Oh.
Spees right back into Kabiri on the offensive end, and he'll tuck it out into the wing.
I was about to credit Brown, and I mean I still will, just because they did such a good job actually in the sub game. They had Dunphy trapped. They set a nice screen for him. Princeton's been sort of switching all day long, so you were able to keep an O-man on. I don't mind the shot. I thought it was actually a great look, but I just wanted to credit that little play that might go unnoticed. That happens a lot in the game, and Brown just did a great job of it.
I feel like there's a lot the past 10, 15 minutes of the Brown coaching staff when they review film this week. There's a lot of little things to like.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a shot. That was Hokanson bidding for his first career goal, but he had the backup. Bo Hokanson, a top 100 recruit, California native, La Costa Canyon High School. Third midfield line. Vanna and Hokanson, the two freshmen, 41 and 35. Hokanson takes contact, clean hit by the Bears and Barons. Here's Mackesy, well defended, hands off Vanna, trying to bully his way in. Shot turned aside, 9 on the shot clock, and they will reset it.
And look, I think for Coach Madelon, he's seeing, a couple steps down the line here to go deep into the Ivy tournament, into the NCAA tournament. You're going to need every guy on the team. And I love the fact that he's getting at least 3 lines of midfielders going for this game.
Malkiel out there as well. Kabiri looking for another goal, and that one sniped wide. Kabiri's got 4 goals and 7 points. So Princeton's got 3 freshmen among the 6 on offense, 49 on the shot clock. Vanna will reset. Jake Vanna, freshman, Boxford, Massachusetts, out of St. John's Prep. Big guy, 6'1", 200 pounds, short stick matchup, turns the corner, and he's got his first career goal. And the sideline erupts.
Yeah, that seems to be a big one for them.
Had an assist earlier in the season a couple weeks ago, and Vanna gives the Tigers the 10-goal lead back with his first career tally.
Yeah, and he earned that one. And you can tell how much he probably means to this team, whether it be, he's trying to get up into the second or first midfield. He's giving, the starters looks in practice, whatever it might be. He can play. That is a very, very tough shot to make. And it's always nice to see, those types of goals happen and to watch the team just erupt, when they go on.
You can sort of tell a player's standing among his teammates based on their reaction on something like that.
But similar to Coach Torpy that we talked about, Coach Madelon, Coach Hirsch, Coach Mischel, they're incredible developers of talent. You look at guys who have gone through their 4 years, they get better. It seems like every game they kind of get better, but they just do such a great job of looking at film and going into practice and saying, okay, what do I need to make this player just a little bit more effective?
First look at number 1, Mark Marino on offense for the Tigers today. Cameron and Kramer running out of the box with 8.5 minutes to go. Princeton looking to go to 3-1 in the Ivy League. A win today wouldn't secure a spot in the Ivy League tournament. They would need some help. They would need a Yale victory, and they would need a Harvard victory today.
Had Saris for a second there.
Here's Malkiel, the freshman, hands off to Cameron. Sean Cameron bumped out of harm's way. Princeton, even with a lot of youth on the field, very, very patient approach on this set. Malkiel, 15 to shoot. Brody Upton, number 6. There's a shot by Kramer, and he's got another goal. Second of the day to go along with an assist by the sophomore Carson Kramer. And Princeton's got a 17-6 advantage, 7:30.
They really are.
I feel like you'd probably still carve out a role on this Princeton team.
Man,
How are you going into your 9th pro season already?
That's a good question. I don't know. But I've been really lucky. The guys that I play with, the coaches that I have, it's just so much fun, and I'm just enjoying it. So, you know, until that isn't the case, keep doing it, I guess.
Princeton with the face-off win. We'll try to identify the personnel. Matt Madelon, Jim Mitchell going pretty deep into the bench. A lot of youth out there. Bo Hokanson, number 48. Dunphy, with Hokanson 41. Dunphy, number 48. He's the junior. Porter Malkiel, he's the freshman, and he's got him hung up. Upton, number 6. He's out there. He's a big freshman. Malkiel just off the mark.
Malkiel's got some moves.
If you're wondering, wow, Upton looks really big. He is big, 6'7", 230 pounds.
I would have loved to have seen him, I think, go back to his left there. He had Witt sliding upfield just a little bit, and Malkiel could have slipped just underneath.
Matched up against the 5'11" Ryan Behrens, and there's a takeaway. Coming back the other way, the Bears. In transition, here's Taylor. Aiden McLean puts the foot on the accelerator and throws it away.
I'm not sure if the camera quite caught it, but Vanna did such an amazing job of getting back on defense there and ensuring that it wasn't a 6-on-5. Just credit to him. I know he's a younger guy, and you know he's vying for minutes right now. But that's something, again, that really won't show up to you or I if we read the box score, but getting back and stopping those types of transition plays, those are the types of things that you know might get you on the field, but really keep you on the field.
Kramer's got 2 goals. He's back out of the box. Here's Sean Cameron, short stick matchup. Cameron thought about it. 5:40 to go, 50 on the shot clock, 11-goal lead. Princeton will run it down. Turning the corner, Malkiel had a great look. Possession stays with the orange and black.
It's a great save.
Kind of strange to say when it's 17-6, but none of the 3 Brown goalies have really played that poorly today.
No, and I don't think any of them, you know, were taken out because they were playing poorly. I think sometimes it's just, you know, trying to get a little bit of a spark and giving someone a look, frankly.
Cameron, downhill dodge, turned aside by LaFerriere. Ball popped straight up. Upton had a beat on it. Cameron had a chance.
Nice check.
Brown coming back the other way with Randolph. And then trail checked away by
nice trail
Kramer.
check.
Princeton's made a change between the pipes as well. Colin Vickery is in after a 16-save performance by Croddick.
Good stop there by Dunphy. Right at the box to ensure that it didn't go out.
Final 4.5 minutes of this contest. Who do we talk to post-game? How do you pick a player of the game in this, right? The defense has been phenomenal. Kabiri's got 7 points. Burns has 6.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I've been impressed with Kabiri today. I think he's just been calm, cool, and collected. You know, he's had his head up, and he's really capitalized on his chances.
Princeton cycling it with a lot of youth on the field. Vanna, fresh off his first career goal.
But you also have to love the way that Burns scored all 3 of his goals, right?
Dunphy trying to get the hands free. Never quite got on cage, hit Witt in the back. So no shot clock reset. 50-50 ball. It's Princeton, but they've got to hurry. Here's Hokanson, extra pass. Dunphy winds up, and it's tipped aside.
Nice save and then nice pickup there by Witt.
So LaFerriere doing a pretty good job. 5 saves, 4 goals allowed. He came in to start the 4th quarter. Foley started. He played the first half. Demopoulos played the 3rd quarter.
They've got Vara stuck. Let's see if they want to take advantage of it.
Vanna and Behrens just camped out, so it's 5-on-5 shot just off the mark by McLean.
Great take.
Who Princeton's done a phenomenal job shutting down today after he had 8 goals in 2 previous meetings with the Tigers. Feel bad, we always We never talked to anyone on the defense, but the offense has just been so lethal here at Sherrod Field this year. Ball loose. Brown comes away with it. Scandone, the junior, with the ground ball.
Did you see how far out Vickery was on that save?
There's a shot sticked aside by Vickery. Pops straight up, and it stays with Wertheim.
It's another great save.
Aiden McLean. Princeton now some subs on defense. Kevin Morrow's out there on defense. Another save by Vickery. 2:09 to go, 41 seconds on the Brown shot clock. Wertheim, goal is open,
Nice
turns
play.
the corner and scores.
Oh, and he paid for it at the end.
Wertheim missed last week's game against Cornell with an injury, and you're right, took some hard contact on the back end of the play to cut it to 10.
Yeah, and I know he's been nicked up, so this makes it an even more incredible play, but he beats the double and then pays for it at the end by getting to the front of the net. What an individual effort.
15 goals for Marcus Wertheim, came in tied for the team lead in points with Aiden McLean. Princeton will make another sub in net, and the Tigers will bring in the freshman goalkeeper, third on the roster, Carter Johnson, for his first career action. Good opportunity to get some of the younger guys some run here late. Princeton will have a new face-off man as well, Jim Williams. Number 47 out there, the junior from Franklin, Tennessee. Mark Witt on the face-off wing. He's going to wind and fire.
I like it, though. Great take. I almost wish that Witt took a few more chances like that throughout the game.
John Torpy, first-year coach, really praised Witt's versatility and his leadership. Right, he talked about the whole defense really makes the scout easy.
Yeah, he's a big guy, right? He goes 6'4", almost 215. He can move. But what I've been impressed with, you could put him anywhere on the field, and he does a great job. You know, you see he's taking wings on faceoffs, and then he's had the tough assignment, I think, of guarding Nate Kabiri today. But I've been impressed with him overall.
Carter Johnson, first run between the pipes, the freshman from Jackson, Wyoming. Noted lacrosse hotbed. We were talking a little bit before we came on air, and of course your time with the Utah Archers and actually getting to play a little bit out in Utah, and how popular the game's becoming in that part of the country.
It's exploding, and I think that they, you know, the Utah faithful, it was such an incredible weekend, and I think they're really excited about having a team, and we're really pumped about going back out there this summer.
Flag comes in near sideline. It'll be on Brown, so a free possession. Here's Upton. Mark Marino out there wearing number 1. Kramer with a flag down on the field. Shot clock not a factor with just 30 seconds to go. Carson Kramer will try to jog around the midfield and run the final 20 seconds or so off the clock. Over to Cameron, toss into the corner, Upton. After Brown upset the Tigers in Providence, knocked them off late in the season last year, Princeton returning the favor here on a soggy Saturday in the Garden State. And it's a 10-goal Princeton victory to improve to 3-1 in the Ivy League. 17-7 your final score. Ryan, Princeton, not the cleanest game they've played all year, but still a conference victory by double figures. You've got